we're in interesting times right now. It's a little harder to spend time with people the way we're accustomed to doing it. And so tonight I have a different idea for you for what's going on. I have 4 friends who are out in the garage, and I'm preparing a meal for them at the same time as I'm demonstrating most of the recipes on that list. I may have been a little overambitious again. We'll have to see how it goes. Right now I'm just working on their main. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate an appetizer. I've got a nice menu here. Grilled portobello mushrooms stuffed with bacon-brie and spinach. After that, the main is going to be sweet potato ravioli stuffed with Norfolk mushrooms in a whiskey caper cream sauce with lamb meatballs. And the dessert is going to be pumpkin tart with caramelized Norfolk apples. And I've given them a copy of the menu. It might be a little bit different. I've also put together an intermezzo for them, which is a palate cleanser between courses. In this case, it'll be between the entree and the dessert, and it's a wild plum sorbet with wild plums that another friend gave me, and I made a sorbet from them. So that'll be something absolutely new. So we're following COVID protocol. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be preparing food for the 4 people that are out in the lovely transformed garage. It's just like a little bistro out there. I'm going to be putting the food on a table. You can see a light over there. That's where my garage door is. And then Jan is going to be coming up with mask on, getting the dishes, handing them out to her husband, John. And then they're going to eat family style out there. And then I'll plate the dessert. So let's start. Got all kinds of producers from the Port Roland Farmers Market and from Norfolk County and Oxford, a few other areas around, and also Ontario. So that's what we're featuring tonight. I'm going to start with the appetizer, which are the portobellos. I've got some set up already. I'm going to set up one and just show you first. These portobellos are from the Simcoe Mushroom Farm. What I do with portobellos is I take out the stem because it tends to be a little bit woody, but you can still use it for stock. I peel them. You don't have to peel them, but it looks kind of nicer when you grill them. And I think, well, it's totally up to you. It's one of those things. So you just peel this portobello, and then what you do is you take a spoon and you just work away the gills. You can eat the gills too. But if you take them out, then there's a little less juice and a little less darkness to your final product. So totally up to you. I took them out this time because it makes it much easier to stuff them. So what I did was then I took a prepared mushroom like this and I grilled it in my grill pan this afternoon and set off all my my smoke alarms, which was distressing. I could have used the barbecue. You can grill them beautifully on the barbecue, and that's really good too. And let me just move this slightly. There we go. There, good. And so you take this. I've made up a mixture of spinach. I pre-cooked the spinach, squeezed all the moisture out of it, mixed it with salt and pepper, which I didn't actually have in the recipe, so you might want to change that. And then I added a little bit of balsamic, white balsamic vinegar, which is really nice, sort of sweet, sweet vinegar. This was from my sister, actually. And then I just mix the chopped cooked bacon with the spinach, and just top it like that. And then put it on the baking tray. I've got all of these set up for the appetizer for my friends in the garage. So I'm going to put it in a 400-degree oven now, just so that all the filling and the mushrooms can warm up. And then I'm going to put this lovely Bridget's Brie, which Orange Acres Farms carries. It's a Guns Hill artisan cheese, and it's so good. I'm going to put that on top and put it under the broiler, and then that will be their appetizer, just like that. So that's a really quick thing you can do. You can prepare all that ahead of time. You can even cut up the brie, which And then if you have a large crowd of people, and as I talk, I'm just going to keep preparing their entree or they're not going to eat tonight. You can prepare all that ahead of time. Then if you have a group of people sort of hanging around the kitchen and you're trying to prepare a big dinner, or alternately out in your garage, then you can just give them that really super quick. I'm going to try not to burn anything this time. I do remember I burned a crepe the last time, which I'll never forget. But anyway, so that is your appetizer. You can serve it with a chutney if you like, or you can serve it with a salsa. Or in this case, I'm not serving it with anything. I'm just serving it on its own, and that'll be what they start with. And yeah, then go from there. So that is the appetizer done, which is super great. What I'm doing right here is I'm making up ravioli from fresh sweet potato pasta dough that I made. I kind of came up with this recipe sort of. I wanted to do filled ravioli, but I didn't want, I wanted it to be fall-like, festive. So what I did was I thought, well, what can I add to it? And I really like sweet potatoes. And I used to work at Twisted Lemon restaurant in Cayuga as a line cook and baker. And we used to make sweet potato gnocchi, which was good. Now, a dough for ravioli is entirely different than a gnocchi dough. Gnocchi want it to be, you know, well, it's a lot different anyway. A filled pasta is totally different. Yeah, so I made this. It comes together really easily, and I'm just gonna show it. You want a dough that's somewhat stretchy, but still somewhat soft, and that just works really nicely. I want to talk about how to make fresh pasta. You can use a pasta roller if you have one. I mean, or a pasta machine, depending on what you want to call it. These are great, and they have a little dial at the side, so you can increase the number, decreases the distance between two rollers. So as you're rolling it, it gets thinner. So very useful. If you don't have one of these, you can still make fresh pasta, but I would suggest that instead of making ravioli, that you roll it out with a rolling pin as thin as you can, and then you cut thin noodles with a knife. And you do that because it's very hard to get as thin as you would like to be for stuffed pasta and still have it be somewhat, you know, edible. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to check the appetizers and see how they're doing. Okay, they're fairly warm, so I'm going to switch to broiler and put the cheese on. Yeah. I'll try not to burn myself today. All right, there we go. Here, so easy appetizer and gluten-free, which is super great for those of you who are gluten-free. I'm not. One problem with cutting brie ahead of time, if your kitchen's warm, is it might start melting already. So, yeah. I may have cut these pieces a little bit thick, so that's good. That'll give me a bit of time between the appetizer and the main for my guests, because they won't be quite so starving. I might even throw in the sorbet after this just to give myself more time, which is what kitchens do all the time. When they say to you, when you're there for a big meal and it feels like things are a little bit delayed, and then suddenly they come out with this marvelous little plate full of little delicacies, little things, and the server says to you, the chef has prepared just for you an amuse-bouche. It's because they're way behind. They're in the weeds. So, well, I mean, not always, but for the most part, it's because, man, they need some more time. So they're buying time by giving you something to occupy your attention while while they finish your food. All these things. Okay, so those are in the oven. I have to think about those. I want to show you something really cool, which is something that's going to go with the pasta, and I'm going to demonstrate the pasta in a minute. These are cremini mushrooms, again from Simple Mushroom Farm. We've got all kinds of producers here, including Heritage Lane Produce. I've got spinach from him, them I should say, and sweet potatoes, and yeah, I'll go into the other ones when I get there. So one of you asked me about doing sort of a mushroom garnish. This is a cremini mushroom. So if you take the edge of a knife and you just tear a little strip up like this, then you can have these marvelous looking, well, that's not too marvelous, but mushrooms that look like you've spent a huge amount of time, right? And then you can just toss these on top of the dish of whatever it is you're doing. So you take these, you can see that's pretty cool. Here we go. There, that sort of works, not really. Yeah, okay, well, there you go. Yeah, sort of. So you take this and then you saute it in olive oil, or I just sort of roasted them in the oven in a saute pan. Salt and pepper, butter if you want, why not? And then you've got a nice little garnish, and that's prepared ahead of time too. So I'm just going to take a look at these appetizers and see how they're doing. And they're almost ready. They look good. They smell good. Good. All right. So done that. So after you have done those mushrooms in the oven, this is how they look. And I actually did some of the oyster mushrooms too, because they were gorgeous. There's 3 different kinds of mushrooms featured today: the mini portobellos, oyster mushrooms, and the cremini. Okay, let's just check those. And this is going to be an interesting sort of evening, I think. Yeah. Oh yeah. So your best friend in the kitchen are a pair of tongs. We used to fight over tongs when we were working on the line. So cooking for, say, evening service, everybody had their pair of tongs, and if someone took your tongs, man, oh, it was terrible, because then you couldn't get anything, right? You couldn't get your food, you couldn't set things up nicely. It's very difficult. There we go. So appetizers are ready. So I am taking these over to the back door. Oh, I should show you how nice they look. See, all sort of melty and delicious. So hopefully they like them. All right, okay, so, all right, so here we go. This, I seem to be missing something. What I'm missing, oh, there they are.
I'm just showing you the view now of out in the garage where everybody's.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla.
Served now the mushrooms. It looks delicious. And it's all very nicely decorated out there, very festive. Okay, we'll go back to Cindy now in the kitchen.
Thank you, Carla. That's a good save there. Okay, so now I'm making up the sweet potato pasta. I want to show you how easy this pasta dough is to make. And then I'm going to work like crazy to get these done. Of course, they're just eating their appetizers now. And in a restaurant, usually you've got time, right? You get your apps out and then, oh, you've got time. You've already started your mains, sort of. So you're in fairly good shape. What I will do is just do one extra step here for myself. These are the lamb meatballs, which I'm going to show you shortly, but these are the ones that I made up yesterday. And I'm just going to put them in the oven so that they are ready to go. The interesting thing about this cooking demo is that you get to see, you essentially get to see what happens in a real restaurant kitchen, which is they have half your food already made. Stuff is mostly already made, and they're doing final preparation. They're just, you know, completing it. The pasta's already made. It's in the freezer.
Cindy, did you leave the oven on broil?
Thank you, Betty.
Oh, you're welcome.
Might have been okay. Those Corningware dishes last really well. So what I'm doing is I'm doing actually the sweet potato pasta dough now. So I'm putting in 1/2 cups of flour, approximately. And my sweet potato. I've got some lovely sweet potato from Heritage Farm. And the nice thing about sweet potato is it tends to be fairly dry as opposed to squash, which tends to have a fair bit more moisture in it. So this is fairly easy to work with. It doesn't make the dough really soft. It's just nice, actually. So I'm putting that in. I'm putting in some salt. Actually, put the salt in first, mix it in, just so you don't get lumps of stuff. So then what I'm doing is I'm actually using my hands to work the sweet potato into the flour because I want a fairly consistent mix. Except for I didn't mash the sweet potato hugely. Oh, there's our oh they've got signs.
Guess it's a rating of 10. 10 thumbs up. Woohoo! That's great.
One never knows what one's guests in the garage might do. Yeah, been chattering. Oh, that's good. They look happy. That's important. They're drinking local wine, which may be helping. There's a few different wines. I have one, a Marquette from Bonnie Heath. There's a Hound and Hare from the Hounds of Erie. So, a Hound and Hare? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so, and they've got one from Blueberry Hill as well. So hopefully they won't, well, he's young. Okay, anyway, they'll save me a glass of something, I'm sure. So now I just take my, okay, so when you see traditional pasta demonstrated, they put a pile of flour on the counter, right? Nice little mound of flour, and then they make a little depression in the middle and they put the egg in the middle. I don't do that. I shouldn't do that either. I hope you didn't see that. Yeah, sometimes eggs, depending on the age of the hen, tend to have much thinner shells than you think. So I'm just going to get another egg. And wipe that down. There we go. One way you can tell the freshness of an egg is, say you get farm eggs, is by shaking it. If you can shake it, if you can feel the egg inside kind of sloshing around, that means that it's older. It's lost some of its, well, it's evaporated somewhat. So the membrane is sloshing around inside the shell. And if that happens, then, I mean, they're still edible. They're still okay for baking and stuff, but it's not quite as fresh for, say, breakfast. You can also float them. I think I mentioned that the last time. You just you get a bowl of water and you put your eggs in it, and if they float, don't eat them. But you can see if you watch them, they should sink to the bottom of the bowl. Okay, so now I've mixed in the egg, and now I'm just mixing with my hands because I want to get a nice consistent dough. This part's a little bit messy, but really, it's super fast. It's not something that takes very long at all. So I'm just kind of mixing this around. Right, so if the egg sort of stands, if it kind of goes on an angle in the water, but still on the bottom, then it's a little less fresh. And then if it kind of floats midway, then it's really not that fresh. Some people like to use less fresh eggs for pickled eggs, which I do not like, and I do not make those. But for some people, that they like to actually age eggs. Eggs age a week. Every day they're out of the refrigerator. So that's something to, neat little fact to remember. So now I'm just bringing this together to get consistent dough. You saw how easy that was, right? Flour, sweet potato, bit of salt, and an egg. That's it. So it starts out as a somewhat dry dough. Just clean off my hands here. But I mean, the range of flavors is amazing. You could put spinach in this. You could put anything in it, really. You put herbs. We used to do a lemon pepper pasta, which was good. So yeah, I mean, actually lemon pepper seasoning, I think. And yeah, you can do anything. So now you just have to really work with it. It's not like bread dough. It's very dry. This is a little drier than it should be. What you do is you knead it for about 5-10 minutes. They say 10 minutes, but yeah, 5 if you like, until you get a nice smooth dough. And then what you're going to do when this is a little bit smoother, I'm just going to wrap it in saran wrap and let it sit for about 20 minutes. So this is not what I'm using. I'm going to continue doing the ravioli with the pasta dough that I've already got made up. So the mushrooms, let's talk about the mushrooms that go in this. And I'll just switch over here. What I did, in order to be able to nicely get them into, you know, something this size, I chop them up somewhat so that you're not getting huge pieces, right? And then you get a more consistent flavor. I also, and I said this, I think, at the last cooking demo too. I try things at every step of the way because maybe they don't need that extra salt. Maybe they don't need that extra other ingredient. So these mushrooms have a nice sort of subtle flavor. So I did not add the Parmesan because it seemed to me that would overwhelm them. So, and they're already going to be with lamb meatballs, which are also subtle, and whiskey caper cream sauce, which is not quite as subtle. Now, when you're using alcohol in a cream sauce, you shouldn't really have any of the alcohol remaining. You know, you're supposed to burn it off. I'm not going to burn it off tonight, so I'm just going to sort of boil it for a bit because that should work out fairly well. Okay, so now what I have is I have a fairly smooth dough. I would normally knead it a bit longer, but this is going to go straight into the fridge because I'm not using it tonight. So you want something that's fairly smooth and has some elasticity to it. And then you have something you can use for filled pasta, which is marvelous. So this is the finish I have, which has a little bit more moisture than this one. You can see that's not quite as moist. And this is what I'm using for tonight's entree. So yeah, so I'm just gonna put that over here for now and get this out of the way. So what you want to do when you're rolling pasta is you're taking off a chunk like this. And I'm sure some of you bought pasta machines at the beginning of COVID because, you know, you want good food. And how many restaurants are there around that are open? Really? I mean, it's tough on them. They're doing patio things and stuff like that, but it's still pretty hard. So you need some flour. You need to start at 1, which is the widest opening for the rollers. I'm just going to take those meatballs out of the oven just so they don't overcook or get too hot. And I'm also going to get my water boiling for the that has actually never happened to me. I won't tell you what happened, but it's certainly a night at first, so yeah, it's fun. If you have a big stock pot like this and you don't have a lid for it, which I don't, just put something like a big stainless steel frying pan or something, or if you've got cast iron, put that on top. Improvise. All right, meatballs are in the oven, and I'm going to talk about the meatballs in a minute, but I'm going to get these done first. Actually, I'll talk about the meatballs. Meatballs, easy. So, lamb has its own particular flavor, which is really nice. And this lamb is from Perry Corner's farm. And she has a really nice grass-fed lamb. It's a farm where they grow things very sustainably. I've also used her lard in pastry and in other things, and it's got a lovely flavor to it. And I've also bought her beef, and it's very nice as well. And again, when the animals are raised on grass, the antioxidants are higher in the meat. It's healthier, and the animals tend to be happier too. Cows can't actually digest corn, so when they say, oh, this beef is corn-fed, that's actually not a good thing. It means that they didn't have enough pasture, so they sent them to the stockyards, and the stockyards fed them corn to get them fat because it puts on weight. But it's actually not healthy for the cows. So grass-fed is good for you, and it's good for the cows too. Okay, so there's many different things that you can actually use to make ravioli. I'm using this. You could use like a biscuit cutter if you have one of those. You can use your knife and just cut squares, and then put a bit, put filling in the center, and then put water around the edge of one half, and then smush the other half on top. Or you could do something like this. You can get, this is a ravioli casa, which I actually haven't used. I was going to use it tonight, and I just thought, oh, beautiful thing, right? Tiny little rolling pin. So you roll it over, and it cuts them all. One of these days, I'll use it. I've had it about 10 years. And I keep meaning to use it, and then I don't make fresh pasta all that often, so in this case, it didn't happen. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out rounds. Of course, 2 rounds for each piece of ravioli, whatever size you like. But this is kind of a nice size. And you just throw it in salted boiling water for a few minutes until it's to the tenderness that you like. And you're done. So yeah, delicious. So while that is, while I'm working on this, I'm gonna get the whiskey caper cream sauce going as well. And that way it can be cooking while I'm talking to you, which will make the evening go along nicely. So I'll just get the cream out, and I need a pot. And you'll notice I use folded towels. These are folded kitchen towels. And that's what most restaurant cooks use. They don't use oven mitts because oven mitts are unpredictable. I'm just getting the cream out. You can't see me, but I'm still here. This is lovely cream. This is cream from Organic Meadow. It's based in Guelph. It's my old hometown. And it's really, really nice, 35% cream. That's what I'm using. And for the whiskey, I'm using, where did I put it? Oh. It fell over, which is, there's gotta be a joke there somewhere. So I'm using Crown Royal, that's what I had. So actually, yeah, let's leave it at that. Okay, so I'm just gonna pour some whiskey in here. I don't know. Sorry, I don't really have proportions, but you may use less, you may use more. All right, so I'm heating that up to start off with. I'll get my keepers out so I don't forget them. Oh, I also wanted to tell you something else I'm gonna scatter on top of the pasta when it's done on top of the cream sauce. Are these pink peppercorns? Now you've probably seen pink peppercorns on various things. They're pretty, and you can actually sort of chew them. They've got kind of an interesting flavor. So I was doing a bit of research online to find out more about these pink peppercorns. I should just check on the whiskey. Yeah, it's fine. And on one of the websites, I found this from spicejungle.com. And this is how they describe pink peppercorns. These have an air that's sharp and musky, like an autumn day hewn together by sunlight and crisp winds. Pink peppercorns have a delicate, fragrant, sweet, and spicy flavor. They are reminiscent of a mild citrus zest and sweet berries. So there you go. All on that. Amazing. Okay, so I'm continuing to cut ravioli. I'm aiming for about 5 pieces per person because they're also having meatballs with this, so just so that it's not overwhelming. But fresh pasta, if you've never made it, it's got such a lovely texture, consistency compared to, you know, well, I mean, dry pasta is good too. But fresh is, it's amazing. So what I'm basically going to do with, yeah, don't do that. What you want to make sure is that you reset your cylinders to 1 each time, or you end up with a big mess. So these pasta machines, you can also cut noodles on this in two different widths. Or once you get this, I'm taking these to 5. You can go to 7, which is really, really thin. Once you get your pasta rolled out, you can just cut it into noodles, just like that. And that's what I was doing when I was making it to order that one time. I don't know, it's like a table of 6 or something. And I was also doing all the veg and gazillion other things. And yeah. Yeah, restaurant kitchens are interesting places to work, that's for sure. There's nothing like it. So I'm just decreasing the width here and going long. The whiskey cream sauce, let's talk about that. It's very easy to make a nice cream sauce just by reducing cream, actually boiling it, and then throwing in a lot of Parmesan cheese. And there you go. For this one though, I thought the whiskey might give it a nice sort of interesting flavor. Let's just take a look. Yeah, it's reducing nicely. So what I'm trying to do is create a whiskey reduction. It's a little bit experimental, so we'll see. And by doing that, you get the flavor, but not necessarily the hit of alcohol, which you don't really need in a, well, you don't really need it. Which is why when I worked at Twisted Lemon, I used to make a gin butter pastry, and you know what? It's amazing when you use a 40% alcohol in pastry. Oh, you get the most amazing pastry. It's beautiful. It's flaky. And actually, I did use alcohol in the pastry tonight. So let's see how I'm doing time-wise. Oh my goodness. Time flies. Sorry, I did not realize you were so, I thought I was sort of super like, yeah, okay. So I see it's 7:45, so I'm just gonna speed up a little bit here. I'm gonna get this, this ravioli done and get on to the pumpkin tart because, wow. Maybe what I'll just do is, well, I'll get these done first. Oh, I miscounted. There we go. Okay. How's the Grouch gang doing? Are you guys starving? Are you doing okay?
Sorry. Yeah, we can go back over there and see
Thanks, Scarlett.
how they're doing. Here. Hi. They look pretty happy.
Waving stuff and waving stuff.
Great. Looks like a fun time.
All right, thanks, Carla. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm going on the, I'm sorry, using kitchen terminology on you. I am now making the cream sauce. I've made some ravioli, not quite as much as I planned, but they won't complain, which is good. And I'm just covering this up again. The rest of the pasta dough, it'll last a day or two in the fridge. So just make sure there's no air and wrap it up nicely and it'll be all right. So obviously I'm gonna be making pasta for myself for the next couple of days. So now I'm just gonna pour the cream right in with whiskey reduction. And I'm gonna turn the heat right up because I want that to be super, I want it to boil actually. And then that will help the cream to start to thicken, which is great. And I need, oh, it's over here, right in front of me. Whisk. Okay, so that heats right up and our water's boiling for the pasta. And of course, I'm gonna add salt to the pasta water. I usually wait till it boils because otherwise, oh, I already have it here, good. Oh, yeah, added it already, that's why I don't have it. So I'm gonna add more cream here. Good. That should be enough. There we go. Yeah, I know I didn't measure, but you know, it depends on how much ravioli you have, right? It depends on how much the people you're making stuff for like cream, like sauce. You don't know. So that's how it goes. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that pot on the back burner, and I'm going to bring the meatballs over here. What I did was I put the mushrooms that I'd already prepared in the oven, so they're heating up. So now I'm moving this to the back burner, because it's a bigger burner. So we can make this go along a little better. You just kind of have to watch, just when you're boiling cream, just watch, because yeah, it can get a little crazy. I do not see. Yeah. So anyway, so it's boiling, so that's good. So I've got some grated Parmesan here that I'm going to add to it. I use this cool micro grater, box grater from Lee Belly Tools. If you don't have one, you should get one because when you do your own grated parm, it is so much better than anything you buy in the store. It's so, so nice. The flavor, the freshness, wonderful. And this grater is also amazing for grating nutmeg. And I've done that as well. So here we go. So I'm just grating a little more parm and pasta. And then we'll be able to get that dish out there. I should take a look at my cream and make sure it's not boiling over. Usually doesn't. Usually takes a few minutes to work through. Good. All right. So while that's going, we'll talk about dessert. Actually. And I'm sorry to keep disappearing on you. It's not my intention actually, but these are like that. I got these lovely raspberries from the cider cake yesterday. So I'm just choosing some for the sorbet because I think I'm going to need to speed that up a little bit. So just getting a few here. I'm going to actually squash some of them. I'm going to actually wash them, and then I'm going to toss them in brandy because that is delicious. And I'm looking at the cream over here. It's doing okay. And I'm just going to take the mushrooms out of the oven so they don't burn. And thank you, Betty, for noting that my oven was still on. That was good. Okay, so these raspberries I'm putting back in the fridge so they don't self-destruct on me. I said self-destruct. So I'm just gonna wash these quickly. Is there any chat that you'd like to talk about, Carla?
Yeah, there was one question. Would a zester work to grate fresh Parmesan, do you think?
No. No. Not very well. Like you would get thin strips. You would get some thin strips, but then all the stuff in between would kind of crumble off and break, I think. So I don't think you want to do that.
Okay, and we were just wondering, when do you add the capers to the whiskey cream?
I'm going to add them towards the end.
Okay.
Actually. Just so that they don't sort of overcook. I find they tend to lose their flavor a bit if you add them too early. Okay, I've just thrown a bit of brandy in with raspberries.
I've always wondered, maybe this is a silly question that I shouldn't ask, but what exactly is a caper?
Caper is from a small Mediterranean bush. It's the unopened flower bud of, I'm not bringing the name to mind right now, but perhaps someone on their cell phone could look that up. Okay, the cream is almost boiling, which is good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to nip out the intermezzo so that my friends in the garage don't starve. So they are actually getting this now instead of a little bit later. This is the wild plum sorbet. And these are the Norfolk wild plums and Norfolk raspberries as well. So we'll just set those up. I already had them portioned and in the freezer because you need stuff like this. So I'm just gonna set this out. Oops, we're stuck. Okay.
Cindy,
Yes.
the capers are from
Caper bush.
Caparis spinosa.
Perfect. Thank you. The Paris Spinoza.
The common name is caper bush.
Excellent. So I was pretty much right. That's good. Okay, so I'm putting the intermezzo over here by the garage door. Okay, we're rolling now. Okay, so the cream is boiling. And yeah, good, super, that's cool. All right, so yeah, one of these micro grater things, if you don't have one, you should do it. So now I'm gonna add I'm gonna add some salt and pepper to the cream and the whiskey first, and then I'm gonna add the Parmesan, and I'm going to whisk it until everything gets nice. Yeah, capers have a lovely flavor, and really, the quality of the caper depends a lot on. Flavor depends a lot on the quality of the caper. So I usually get an Italian brand, Unico, because yeah, they know capers. Sometimes you'll see really cheap capers in a really big bottle. Don't get them. They're not good. They're just not good. Okay, so that's doing well. I'm at, wow, not much time left. So I'm gonna throw the ravioli in the boiling water. They're only gonna take a few minutes. And I'm gonna put some capers into the, actually I'm not gonna put them in quite yet. I'm gonna put them in a bowl first.
Cindy, do you use capers that are preserved in salt or in brine?
Vinegar, it says.
Vinegar.
Yeah, some brine, I guess. Yep. Okay, good. All right, so that is looking good. I'm gonna put the ravioli in now. So they're only gonna take a couple minutes. Actually, I'm gonna finish the cream sauce first because I just wanna make sure I've got that done before I do that. And they're just eating it won't take them long to eat their empty mess out, that's for sure, but it's a palate cleanser, so that's nice. And I'm gonna get this out of the oven. The meatballs I threw back in just in case. So the meatballs, yeah, I was gonna demonstrate those. I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm not going to. Ground lamb, seasonings. Don't do this to ground meat, or it will not be nice. I'm just gonna put it back in the fridge now. Just work with it gently, and then form it into balls and bake it in the oven. It's easy. Meatballs, super easy. I won't touch that because it's hot. Sometimes it's good to put something on top of a lid like that so that you remember that it's hot. But you probably know that. Okay. So I'm finishing the cream sauce now. I'm adding the parm. I'm adding the capers. I've added salt and pepper. I'm sorry I keep calling it parm. I'm reverting to kitchen talk. So now I'm turning the heat up. The Parmesan will melt into the cream and thicken it up. Yeah. And while that's working, I'm going to toss the capers in now. Good. And now I'm going to cook the ravioli. I have this beautiful dish that friends gave us years ago. I'm not going to put it in the oven. Probably could, but I don't know. So I want to make sure I don't damage it. So this water is boiling really well, which is exactly what I want. And I'm just testing out the sauce here, which is doing okay. And as I've said before, trust your sense of taste, right? So if you're not sure if something's done or not, just try it, see, and adjust your seasoning as you need to. So after this, of course, is the pumpkin tart. I see I have 5 minutes, which is a little less time than I'd like to kind of finish talking about this, but I'm willing to hang in there if you are, but I will show you the finished tart and talk about the pastry and the filling, and the book that the recipe came from. So I've got those all in. They're all sort of They're muddling around nicely, so those will take a couple minutes. Make sure that my sauce is doing what it should. Looking good. This does kind of make pots that need a bit of cleaning afterwards. See how it goes. Yeah, it's getting a little bit thicker. I'll just try it. Needs more salt. That's a classic kitchen thing, eh? The chef will come along and he'll try something, he'll say, needs more salt. I've used a lot less salt since doing home cooking as opposed to restaurant cooking. It's amazing sometimes how much salt they use. Right. So these are looking good. I'm just going to move them around in the boiling water a bit. You can see them change shape a bit, so you can tell that they're starting to get cooked. And the sauce is doing well. And I've got the mushrooms as a garnish. I've got pink peppercorns as a garnish. And I think that was it for garnishes for that. Yeah, okay, good. So we'll get ready to put that together.
Cindy, there was another question.
Okay.
Is there an alternative to all-purpose flour that is gluten-friendly option for the pasta?
There may well be. You could try using Bob's Red Mill gluten-free flour substitute. And that's not exactly the name, but I've used that, and I think you have too, Betty. I'm not sure.
Yes, the all-purpose.
And it says it can be used for pasta, so I have not actually tried it.
Wendy and I will have to take a chance and see if it'll work.
Yeah. Okay, so that pasta's almost done. I'm trying not to get pepper on it. Well, everywhere. Stuff is everywhere. It's okay. All right. And then I'm going to lift the pasta out. I'm going to put it on in that nice big bowl along with the meatballs. Pour the cream sauce over it. Put the garnish, the mushroom garnish, which is still garnish. I'm putting my oven on broil, Betty. Okay, my oven on broil. All is well. Okay, so this is all going to come together now. All right. Good. Okay, so we're turning that off. So the cream sauce has thickened up somewhat, not quite as much as I wanted, but the pasta, the fresh pasta and the meatballs will absorb some of it too, to some degree. This is hot. Okay, so tossing the meatballs in here. And the key thing is you want to try to keep things as hot as possible, eh? So you want to keep moving. Okay, so I'm using a slotted spoon to take the pasta out so that I'm not getting the pasta water in too, because that would be a little too much. I envision them taking up a lot more space in this bowl, but it's okay. I think this will be enough. I think they'll be all right. They've got a big pumpkin tart coming up after this, so they should be okay. I hope. Turning that off. Covering it. And now I am getting sauce and pouring sauce over. Yeah. Just like that. Oh, yeah. And make sure that I get the capers out too. Yum. Okay. And I'm putting my mushrooms over. Did I just turn it on again? I'm going to broil. Yeah. I'll leave that for a moment. So I get my tongs. Right? Tongs are wonderful. And we'll just scatter these mushrooms over it. And these are those lovely stripy mushrooms and the oyster mushrooms that I did earlier. just to make it kind of interesting. It's a little bit of a brown dish in terms of color, but well, it's fall too, so it's okay. And now I'm going to put these lovely pink peppercorns. I'm going to just like scatter them on top. There we go. Lovely. Okay. There we go. There we go. Nice pasta dish. Lots of cream sauce. There we go. Okay. Okay, so I realize I'm a little over time. I hope I've still got a few people watching. Do I still have a few people watching, Carla?
Yeah, we're there. Everyone's still
left?
here. It's great,
Everybody's
Cindy.
good.
I think we're gonna follow them out to the garage for a few
Okay.
seconds, okay?
Okay. So now I'm heading towards the dessert.
Okay, here they are out at the garage now,
Okay, super.
getting everything on their plates. It looks amazing. Great presentation. Okay, well, maybe we'll go back to the kitchen and check back in with you guys.
Yeah, you're stuck in our faces.
I know, we're quiet.
Okay, we're back on you, Cindy.
Excellent. Okay, hello. I'm back. Okay. So thank you for hanging in there. It's a little bit yeah, it's busy. Okay, so for our dessert we have pumpkin tart with caramelized apples. Now, what I wanted to talk about was two things. This pumpkin pie recipe that I've got, I use butternut squash. I don't use pumpkin. Although a friend just gave me a big heirloom pumpkin, which I need to eat, and she says they're really nice. It's an old French variety. Yeah, the name escapes me at the moment. Anyway, the pumpkin pie recipe I use is from this tattered purity cookbook, which is the most amazing cookbook. And it's got recipes that you may have never heard of, actually, like some of the different pies. Cottage cheese pie, which would probably predated cheesecake, I'm guessing, because you use a German sweet pastry with it and all kinds of stuff. But their pumpkin pie recipe, which I use butternut squash, pardon me, it always works. And the amazing thing about it, okay, so butternut squash, and then it's basically a custard, right? So you're mixing sugar and you're mixing egg with your prepared squash and spices. So what you have is basically custard. It's going to look like this, or it should look like this. I like a really smooth, velvety pumpkin pie. I don't like, chunky yuck. So the butternut squash, what I do in terms of the recipe here that I have, the one thing that I do differently is I dissolve the sugar in the milk. And this is something that I think leads to a nicer consistency in the end. And the other thing I do is I use an immersion blender. The end is over here, so I use an immersion blender to blend it together before filling the tarts, and that way you get like super smooth, and that's what it looks like. You can eat it just like that. So if you're gluten-free, just make this and eat it. I mean, you could bake it. It's got raw eggs in it, right? But still, it's good. I had hoped to sort of go through all the steps of making that, but it's really simple. Take your butternut squash. I usually cut just the ends off, and then I cut it in half. I take the seeds out. I bake it, cut side down, parchment paper, baking sheet, 350 or a bit higher until it's done. And then cool it, and then use that as the squash for the base for the pie, or tarts in this case. Real caramel sauce is something that is a totally amazing thing. Water, white sugar, that's it. I shouldn't say. Water, white sugar. You you cook it, you boil it until it's, you dissolve the sugar first at a fairly low temperature, medium low, and then you boil it until it starts to just turn a light brown. And then you take it off the heat and very carefully you pour whipping cream into it. It's going to sputter, so you need to whisk it right away, and until you get this super smooth, velvety caramel sauce. Once you've had this, you will not, it will ruin you entirely for commercial caramel sauce. I kid you not, it is so good. So what I did some years ago is I came up with a caramelized apple cheesecake. So doing a bit of a variation on that, what I've done is I took the apple and I diced it, large dice, and I cooked it in the caramel sauce until it was just soft. And so now you have that apple flavor in the caramel sauce too, which is really good. And the other part of what I did was I toasted walnuts. And that just gives them a little more flavor when you do that. So that is the other part of the pumpkin tart dessert, which is, I am going to plate, but I don't think they're quite ready yet. They're probably still, they can go for a bit. So I do have a bit of time. It's just that I realize that it's now about 8 minutes after 8. So I apologize for kind of going over time. Before I put this together, I just wanted to talk a tiny bit more about the different producers. The apples come from Kent Creek Orchards, and they're Cortlands, so they're really nice. A little bit of tang, right? Nice depth of flavor. They're not one-dimensional, like delicious apples. So those, I'm using David Meadows maple syrup, which is also in the local Haldeman, Norfolk area. And yeah, I also wanted to say thank you. I didn't specifically, I don't think, well, I might have been beginning. Thank you for the seasonal decorating that Jen and John Everett did. Jen, primarily, John helped with the lights, which was super great because the lights are terrible. So that took a lot of pressure off me, which is good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just plate their desserts. What I've used is the pastry recipe from the last, for the tart. I used the pastry recipe that was in the first cooking demo that I did. So if you were in that, if you registered for that, that's the pastry recipe. And it is a pastry recipe out of the Canadian Living Cookbook. 5½ cups of flour, pound of lard. They say 3 teaspoons of salt, but I don't go that much. I usually put in a little bit of sugar too. And I usually cube the lard and chill it before I actually mix it in with flour. And then they say a tablespoon of vinegar and about a cup of water, depending, you just kind of go, you don't want it to be overly wet, that's for sure. And then you chill it for a while. Or you can use alcohol instead of vinegar, and most amazing pastry. So that's what I did tonight, or earlier today, yesterday, I don't even remember. Yesterday, I think. That was the pastry. Instead of doing a pie like the Purity Cookbook, instead I did tarts. I did large tarts because they're not getting a piece of pie and they might not get a second tart. So 1 tart, caramelized apples, walnuts. I was going to have whipping cream too, but I didn't quite get there. So I'm going to top it with a little bit of caramel sauce instead and say that that was the prerogative of the chef. You can say anything, right? Just say, the chef thought you would prefer caramel sauce. I can't even say it anymore. Caramel sauce to whipping cream. So yeah. Next time you hear a story, yeah, when you're in if restaurants ever open again, yeah, think about it. Think about what I've said. Yeah, it's interesting. So I want to show you.
Hi, Cindy. Should we check in on the garage and see how they're doing first?
Yeah, can you see how they're doing? Because they may not be ready for dessert yet.
Okay, let's check in on them over there. See how they're enjoying their meal. Looks really yummy. I think it's a rave review. Wow. Empty bowls.
It's super funny. I did not know that they would be, you know, having signs and things, but one never knows these things. Okay, so my tray's a bit small for this, so I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna plate their desserts because it's kind of fun. And I don't know if this is gonna work. There we go. It's really interesting. I worked at a few large caterings that were off-site, and we had tents that we were working in. And you just set up entire long tables full of plates for the appetizers, like, you know, like 400 people. You just go right along, just do it all. So this is really actually nothing like that. Okay, so you can see this pastry. I don't know if you can see, like, it's flaky, and it did it a little bit thicker. I wasn't sure if it would hold up okay with the pumpkin, but it did. But it is something else I did with the pastry that is actually not in the recipe. I added a little bit of ground ginger to the pastry, and this is an old French-Canadian trick for bringing a really fine flavor to the pastry. So maybe it'll make a difference. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in 2 stages, 2 different platters, because they don't really fit on either thing very well. So just adjusting. All I need are a couple little spoons. So let's see. Some caramelized apple. What else did I have in mind here? Yeah. Okay. So just some caramelized apple on top. They might have to use knife and fork, but they don't have to. You can just rip it apart with your hands. I don't care. Just do what you will enjoy. Just eat. It's like you're in a garage. It's okay. It's the garage bistro tonight. And I hear my cat, who I've shoved away, poor little thing. But she would have been probably trying to get out to the garage, so I didn't really want that to happen. Now, normally, again, you would not have an entirely sort of brown dessert. So what I may do is I'm just going to wash a few more raspberries and scatter some raspberries around because I want it to be pretty. Often they would do sort of a, I don't know, they used to use plastic squeeze bottles a lot. I hope they don't use them as much anymore. And they would do that to just, you know, make a plate pretty and then maybe toss some icing sugar on it or something. Because you want things to be different than what you might do at home, right? You want it to be a little bit more interesting. So what I need now are my raspberries back. I'll just scatter some of these around the plate because they're delicious. This time I'm not gonna douse them in, this time I'm not going to toss them in brandy. I'm just gonna wash them and dry them a little bit. So just give me a moment here. I am still here. Sorry, I'm out of your sight line for a minute there. And I'm gonna dry them a little bit so that they're not quite so, yeah, so they're prettier. Another thing you can do with fruit is you can sprinkle it with, you know, a little bit of icing sugar too. Brings up the color. So if I was doing this artfully, I would have gotten some mint and put some mint underneath the raspberries. I understand there are a few people in the garage that don't really like mint, so I won't do that when they have, you know, nothing to say. Hopefully. Okay, so we'll just. So I'm just doing, you know, just a little bit of color on the plate, and that's as far as it gets today. And maybe just scatter a few walnuts around. This is not wonderful plating, but it's okay. It will work. Okay, and I'm going to put those. I can hear my kitty cat. Here we go. I'm just going to take these to the back door. and take these to the back door.
Were you going to put the caramel sauce on them?
Oh, shoot. Thanks, Betty. That's what I had.
You're welcome.
You know what? I was thinking, thank you so much. I was thinking, these don't look like I thought they would. So I'll be there in just a moment. Yeah, I mean, I had this, I was gonna eat it all myself. Look how wonderful that is. Look at that. Like, it's just, it's marvelous.
Oh, you are tempting us too much.
So yeah, I'm gonna make the plate pretty now. Yeah. Oh, I was thinking, I thought this all out. So yeah, I'm just sort of doing some artful swirls here. And around. Yeah. And oops, around. Yeah, so now the plates actually look a little bit nicer than they did. Thank you very much, Betty. And I am now taking these over to the door. Lovely. There we go. Yeah, finally. Yeah, more. Okay.
Hi everybody, just while we're running out of time here, I might just announce our winners of the apron because I've done a random number generator and we have 2 lucky winners. So we have our first winner is Diane Salter. Congratulations. I will email you and we can work out a time to pick up your new apron that Cindy is modeling tonight. And our second winner is Beth and Mike. So you're another lucky winner. Congratulations. I'll be in contact and we can arrange to get it to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hanging in and being here tonight. Am I up or are you up? Yes, I'm up. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Sorry I went a bit over time. It's been fun. And I hope that you have a wonderful autumn and a good Thanksgiving, and that you all stay healthy and have a chance to see family this October. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Just the garage, they want to have one more chance to
Sure.
show their review.
Yeah, I don't know.
There they are. Yay.
Yay. That's great, and thank you to my guests tonight for spurring me to try to do something a little more than I would.
Pleasure. Thanks, Cindy.
That was wonderful, Cindy. It looks so great. Lots of people in chat have been saying the recipes just look wonderful and they want to try them all, and it's a great fall theme.
Thank you very much.
You say something.
Hey, Cindy. It's Leanne and Suzanne.
Hey, how are you? Yeah, I can just barely see you. There's a light on your face. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.
We really enjoyed it. It was lovely.
So nice to see you guys.
It was awesome, Cindy. Good work. Can't
Thank
wait
you
to
so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. It was amazing.